My name is Kristian Sørensen. I'm based in Copenhagen, but happy to be back at the big family gathering of Money2020. I run two companies these days. I've, for the past 6 years, been running a small boutique consultancy, bunch of payment nerds doing payment stuff, and most recently we've gravitated into digital assets, and we launched the Tokenizer first as a news and data platform for the digital asset economy. And now that is a company in its own right, and we just launched our first services on that platform called the Reg Radar, so the regulatory overview of digital asset regulation across the world. The takeaways from Money2020 so far is, first of all, that the industry is thriving. There's no recession to be seen anywhere here. But it's also very, very interesting to see how the established financial services world and the banking world and payment world is starting to embrace the new digital asset world much more. And also the other way around, that you see the digital asset world is starting to talk about how to be compliant and how to get the balanced regulation that they need, and everything starts to come into full circle. There are some trends and some buzzwords that keep popping up. Central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs for short, is certainly one of the hot topics this year, and we also see a lot of other different things. But I mean, the most bold statement I've seen so far is probably on one stand that has the big sign, "Ohio is the future." I don't know if that applies to all of the payments industry, but that's the boldest statement so far. I think that the crypto space is moving from this wild west of new opportunities and new technologies to a more mature place where the actual use cases and the actual benefits of the technology has taken focus over the short-term benefits in terms of the value creation that has been. And that means that we see real-world assets being tokenized, and you start to see transactions on top of real-world assets. And that can be anything from ownership of companies to ownership of real estate to paintings to cars, farmlands, woodlands, what have you. And I think that bridging between something extremely tangible, the real-world assets, and the digital world, that is a very interesting development, and also something we from the payments industry has a certain expertise with, basically bridging physical goods with digital payments. So there's a lot of experience and learnings that we can take from the payments world to this new digital asset world. Tokenization is basically adding a digital and programmable layer on top of anything. In some ways, you could argue that money in the first place is a token. It's a representation of an underlying asset. It just was implemented to make it easier to transact, instead of you having fish and me wanting wool, and had to make some sort of exchange in the middle, and thereby we invented money. Tokenization is practically the same. It's a layer that we add to make things more transactable. And of course, in theory, that means that if I own a piece of the Empire State Building and a bit of a Monet and a gold mine in South Africa, I could use that to buy a cup of coffee if we had the infrastructure in place. In theory, that could be done because we've added this programmable layer of tokenization on top of the underlying assets. I think there's still a big misconception that the minute you have something digital, it just automatically connects. We see that with central bank digital currencies, that a central bank might issue a digital currency, or an asset owner might issue a token on top of that asset. But how do you make it transactionable? One thing is selling it on sort of the primary market, but the secondary market, either on the exchange side of things, people exchanging these tokens, or exchanging tokens for physical goods, i.e. using them at point of sale. And for that, you need the whole acceptance infrastructure. And I think the acceptance infrastructure is something that the payments industry has refined and built over the years. And I think that is something, again, where the expertise of the payments industry all gather here in Amsterdam today can be applied to this wonderful new world of digital assets and tokenization. The fact that the traditional financial services have traditional thinking and traditional approaches. So for instance, if you want to apply for a business loan in a bank, you need to put down some collateral. That works perfectly fine if you are in a place in the world where you have something you can put down as collateral. But in most of the emerging markets, having proper collateral or even using the company as security or collateral for a loan can be difficult because there is no proper underwriting, there is no proper interface, so to speak, to that collateral. And that is something that the whole DeFi world, decentralized finance world, has shown us that any type of collateral can be used as a guarantee for a loan. And that means that all of a sudden you can have some entrepreneur in Ghana or Sudan that may have a brilliant business plan, and all they need is $10,000 to realize it, but they can't go to a traditional bank and get it. They can go to the microlending, but actually most of the people involved in microlending would rather be investors than lenders. So if they could invest maybe just $100 out of the 10,000 that the entrepreneur needs, you could see, I don't know, 10x, 20x a return, and at the same time doing financial inclusion. So I think we are onto something good here, that the democratization for both the ones that need access to financial services and the most of people that are banked but not part of venture capital, that do not have the funds to become an angel investor, they can all of a sudden tap into this potential, either locally or globally. In terms of predictions, what we see here is one big digitization journey. Payments, banking has been through an ongoing digital transformation. I mean, you can hardly call it transformation anymore. It's just moving constantly. And I think that journey will just continue. And tokenization is the next natural step of the digitization journey. And the transaction on top of these tokens is the next natural step. So if this will see mass adoption this year, next year, in 2, 3, 5 years, I don't know. I'm probably over optimistic that it will go quicker, but I will probably still be surprised how big it will eventually become. It's probably a bit like the internet. We overestimated it to begin with, but underestimated the long-term impacts.